Welcome back. We'll take a look at the news in detail. We begin with the aftermath of the Ukrainian airplane tragedy. In the Iranian capital, Tehran, hundreds of protesters are demanding the resignation of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Police fired tear gas to disperse demonstrators gathered outside two universities who demanded action against those responsible. British Ambassador Rob McCare was briefly detained at the demonstration in what the UK called a violation of international law. Iran said McCare was detained for organizing and inciting protests in front of the Amir Kabir University. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has tweeted support for the protests. He warned Iran against killing peaceful protesters and shutting down the internet. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had agreed with President Rouhani to begin joint work on decoding the black boxes from the downed aircraft. In a related development, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for the accountability of those behind the crash of the Ukrainian passenger plane. This comes after Iran said its military had mistakenly shot down the Ukrainian plane, killing all 176 on board. In a televised address, Zelensky said he agreed with the Iranian president, Mr. Hassan Rouhani, on a joint probe into the incident. In a press briefing, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Iran did the right thing by admitting that it shot down the jet. He also said Canada wants clear answers from Iran to determine whether the plane was shot down mistakenly. Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani has arrived in Iran amidst heightened tensions in the Middle East. During his visit, Tamim will hold meetings with Iranian senior leadership, including President Hassan Rouhani. State media said the talks will focus on bilateral relations and ways of enhancing them. It said the latest developments in the region and international issues of mutual concern will also be discussed. Last week, Qatari Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani met his Iranian counterpart Jawad Zarif in Tehran. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has arrived in Iran's city of Mashhad on the first leg of his diplomatic mission to ease tensions in the Middle East. Pakistan's Foreign Office said Qureshi will meet Iranian counterpart Jawad Zarif to discuss the situation after the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani. He will visit Riyadh on January 13 to hold talks with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. During the meetings, Qureshi will stress the need for finding peaceful and diplomatic solutions to the conflicts. Moreover, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has arrived in Saudi Arabia as part of a 5-day trip to the Middle East to help ease regional tensions. Abe's delegation was received by senior officials, including Economy Minister Mohammed Al-Tuwajiri and Riyadh Governor Prince Faisal bin Bandar bin Abdul. Now, Abe will make a trip to the historical site of Al-Ula, where he will have a meeting with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He will travel to the UAE on Monday for a meeting with Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The Japanese Prime Minister will also visit Oman, where a new ruler was sworn in yesterday. During the trip, Abe will brief leaders of the three countries on the deployment of Japanese self-defense forces to the Middle East. Now, at a time of heightened tensions in the Middle East, South Korea has summoned Iran's ambassador after he implied bilateral ties could suffer if Seoul dispatched naval forces to the Strait of Hormuz. Ambassador Badamchi Serbestari made the remarks in an interview last week. The Iranian envoy denied directly mentioning the possible severing of diplomatic ties. South Korea's foreign ministry, however, lodged a protest over his remarks. The U.S. has been pressuring South Korea to join its maritime security campaign in waters off Iran. Meanwhile, Iraqi Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi has told the Kurdish leaders that he does not seek a hostile relationship with the U.S. The caretaker Prime Minister held a meeting with the Kurd leaders in Erbil in his first visit to the autonomous region since coming to power in 2018. Mahdi met Iraqi Kurdistan's Prime Minister Masroor Barzani, President Nechirvan Barzani, and influential power broker Masoud Barzani. Earlier, Washington rejected Iraq's request to work on American troops' withdrawal amid heightened U.S.-Iranian tensions. In Indian-occupied Kashmir, Indian troops have martyred 2 more Kashmiri youths in Pulwama district. The occupying forces have martyred 6 Kashmiris in this month so far. The civilians were martyred during a cordon search operation in the trial area of the district. Reports said the operation started earlier this morning. The occupied valley is reeling under New Delhi's curfew and communications blackout for the past 161 days. And in a related development, the Muslim televangelist Dr. Zakir Naik says New Delhi offered him safe return in exchange for support over occupied Kashmir issue. Now, Naik is currently living in self-exile in Malaysia since 2016, facing charges of hate speech and inciting terrorism. In a video message, Naik said an Indian government representative met him in Malaysia under direct orders of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Naik said he was asked to support India's decision of revoking Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. The televangelist said he refused the offer as the step is unconstitutional and takes away the rights of Kashmiris. He also said that the representative has said New Delhi wants to use his connections to improve relations with Muslim countries. Now, Indian government's data shows there has been almost 1,500 acid attacks in the country in these past 5 years. In a report, the Indian National Crime Records Bureau presented data from 2014 to 2018. This data shows 623 individuals were attacked by acid in 2017 and 2018. The report also points out only 149 attackers were charge-sheeted in each year. It said Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal and Delhi are among the 10 worst states with the highest number of acid attacks. In Thailand, thousands have participated in a run to protest against the government. Now, the organizers of the Run Against Dictatorship event said that more than 10,000 people registered to attend the protest that appeared to be the biggest show of dissent. Protesters chanted "Long live democracy" while running the 2.6-kilometer course amid a light presence of security forces. Now, some runners gave a 3-finger salute of resistance to the former Janta leader, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. The protest prompted a rival event held in another park where thousands turned out to show support for Prime Minister Prayut. Taiwan's incumbent leader, Tsai Ing-wen, has won the presidential elections, defeating Han Kuo-yu by a wide margin. Following her win, Beijing said it will not change its position on Taiwan, saying there is only one China in the world. Speaking to reporters after winning the polls in Taipei, Tsai said she hopes to restart talks with China. Now, earlier, results from the Central Election Commission showed Tsai secured over 57% votes, a record 8.2 million. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Japan's Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi congratulated Tsai on her re-election. Now, in the battle for Tripoli, forces loyal to Libya's General Khalifa Haftar have accepted a joint call by Turkey and Russia for a ceasefire. On Wednesday, Turkey and Russia asked Libya's warring parties to declare a ceasefire in a conflict drawing increasing foreign involvement. Libyan National Army spokesman Ahmed al-Mismari announced Haftar's forces' agreement to the truce, but will respond harshly if the ceasefire is violated.
The General Command of the Arab Libyan Armed Forces announces a ceasefire in the western region effective as 24:01 hours on January 12, 2020. Conditional that the other party enforces a ceasefire at the same time.
Meanwhile, Boko Haram militants have killed 4 villagers and kidnapped 4 women in western Chad. Security officials said the fighters attacked the village of Olom along the border of Nigeria. The insurgent group has been waging attacks in Nigeria for the past 10 years. It has spread around the area bordering Cameroon and Chad. Last month, they killed 14 fishermen in the nearby village of Kaiga and kidnapped 13 others. Robert Abela has been elected as Malta's Prime Minister after Joseph Muscat resigned over a probe into the murder of an investigative journalist. Now, in October 2017, Daphne Caruana Galizia died in a car bomb attack close to her home. Abela was elected leader of the governing Labour Party, making him the new Prime Minister of the Mediterranean country. The leadership election was contested between Abela and Deputy Prime Minister and Health Minister Chris Fern. Muscat's party members are already rooting for a revival and resurgence of the party. Moving on to Venezuela, where opposition leader Juan Guaido has ruled out resumption of negotiations with President Nicolas Maduro. Guaido told his supporters in Caracas that the Maduro administration had repeatedly deceived the public and therefore cannot be trusted. More in this report.
Norway mediated negotiations last year, but the talks broke down in August after both sides accused each other of breaking terms. Earlier this week, Guaido survived dramatic attempts to remove him as head of the National Assembly. Venezuela's self-declared acting president, Guaido has called for new protests to drive out Maduro.
We need to go out onto the streets to protest, to demand in an organized way together, to put pressure. Never again, never will we go down on our knees before the dictatorship. We will never stay silent whilst we are oppressed.
Despite the political and financial crisis, Maduro retains the military support, while according to polls, Guaido's popularity has fallen below 40%.
Moving on, tens of thousands have marched in Glasgow, calling for a second referendum on Scotland's independence. Organisers said almost 80,000 pro-independence demonstrators took part in the march as strong gusts swept through Glasgow. The participants carried pro-Scottish banners and paid homage to the pro-Catalan independence movement in Spain. The pro-independence march was organised by All Under One Banner, a Scottish independence group established back in 2014. 11 migrants, including 8 children, are killed after their boat capsized off Turkey's western coast. Turkish state media says 8 others are rescued from the Aegean Sea near the town of Çeşme. It said the Turkish Coast Guard carried out the rescue operation. The boat capsized just hours after another boat sank in the Aegean Sea, the Greek island of Paxi, leaving 12 dead. The nationality of the victims is not yet known. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison has expressed regret over his handling of the bushfire crisis. In an interview, he said he will propose a judiciary inquiry into the response to the disaster. As the fires claimed another firefighter's life, the Prime Minister faces criticism for his government's climate policy. The Australian bushes are burning for nearly 3 months now and have killed 28 people. Morrison rejected criticism that his government had not done enough before the bushfire season started. He also pledged $76 million as extra funds to help affected communities cope with foreseeable mental health issues. Morrison said the Royal Commission will be appointed after consultations with the states.
I think there's obviously a need for a national review of the response. And let's not forget, they're not finished yet. I think that is what would be necessary, and I'll be taking a proposal through Cabinet to that end. But it must be done. Yeah, but it must be done in consultation.
And weather-related news now. 11 people are dead due to massive storms sweeping across parts of the southern U.S., bringing high winds and heavy rain. Around 1,000 flights were cancelled and hundreds of thousands were without power in 5 states: Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee and Arkansas. Deaths were reported in Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma and Texas. The states of Missouri, Oklahoma and Arkansas suffered property damage but reported no injuries. More than 20 million people remain at risk of tornadoes and flooding, with Alabama said to be most at risk. The storms also brought damaging tornadoes to Alabama, Kentucky and Mississippi. Now let's take a quick look at how the weather is faring in your city. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can